With me today is the smallest hatchback in Toyota's lineup, and that is this brand new 2020 Toyota Yaris Hatchback. Now, this Yaris Hatchback is co-developed and manufactured by Mazda for Toyota. But does that mean this is still a Toyota, and is it any good? That's what I'm here to find out. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this brand new Yaris Hatchback so you can decide if this is the right car for you. Stay tuned. Now, first, I want to give a big shout out to Continental Toyota for making this video possible. So if you're in the market for a brand new or used Toyota, then definitely check out Continental Toyota. Their information is on the screen and also in the description of this video. Starting with the outside, the front end of the Yaris hatchback looks very similar to the Yaris sedan. There's a large center grille surrounded by chrome in the middle that stretches down to the lower bumper. On this LE trim I'm reviewing, the headlights are projector halogens with daytime running lights. On the XLE, they are LED. Both models come with fog lights. The side profile has a nice round and curved shape and has a slanted tailgate. This very much looks like a Mazda, but that isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's a great thing. The 16-inch dark gray alloy wheels have a really nice color and design that looks just right. The back end has a nice round pier shape with an integrated spoiler and shark fin antenna. And yes, you do get a chrome tipped exhaust. As for trims, the Yaris hatchback comes in LE, which is what I'm testing, and the XLE. The LE starts around $17,750, while the XLE starts about $1,000 more. Now, the XLE comes with more convenient features such as auto LED headlights, leatherette seats, and steering wheel and handbrake. And also you get little things such as auto climate control and rain sensing wipers. There is only one engine option for the Yaris hatchback, and it's a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder pushing 106 horsepower and 103 pound-feet of torque. Unfortunately, unlike the sedan, you can only opt for the 6-speed automatic. There is no manual that is available. Fuel economy is outstanding as the Yaris hatchback gets 35 miles per gallon combined, which is one more than the sedan. As for cargo room, you get a good amount behind the rear seats, way more than the Yaris sedan. And the rear seats do fold down for more cargo capacity. Simply press a button on either side of the second row and watch them fold. In the back, the Yaris hatchback seats is covered in cloth, but they do have a good sporty pattern, especially with the blue middle insert. As for space, I'm 5 feet 10 and my legs do touch the front seat. However, I do have about 2 to 3 inches of headroom left. The cushions feel pretty comfortable. As for the front, Toyota can thank Mazda for providing a modern and sleek cabin. The dash, infotainment system, steering wheel all look fantastic. Next, let's do a deeper look into the cabin. Alright, I'm behind the steering wheel, so let me show you the inside to this Yaris hatchback. Now, there's no denying it. If you take a look at this, the design language is very Mazda. In fact, the entire cabin is straight from a Mazda 2 hatchback, which is not available in the US, but if you look it up on Google, this is the same exact cabin. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because Mazda's interior cabins are one of the best in the industry. And as you can see, this is actually very elegant, very modern looking. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Well, starting with the steering wheel, this looks like a Mazda steering wheel with the Toyota badge on here. But take a look. It's sleek, it's modern looking. I actually like it a lot. There's not that many buttons. This is just for the cruise control. It's not adaptive cruise control, just regular cruise control. This is for info, actually your favorites. This is for volume and your phone controls. And that's it to the steering wheel. But it's a good size, and I'll let you guys know how this feels once I start driving because that's more important. Now take a look in the gauge cluster. You got one big speedometer, you got a digital gauge for your fuel and range, temperature, and here you have a small little digital tachometer also with your miles and so forth, and that's pretty much it. You do have this favorites, and if you try to utilize that, it's actually over here. So there is no menu for you to change in the gauge cluster. I don't believe I've been in a car recently where this was set. There was always some kind of information you could get, but not in this one. All right, so let's move on to the infotainment, because this is one of the best parts of the car. This is straight from Mazda. This is a 7-inch touchscreen, which you can utilize touch like that, or utilize the controls over here. Now, this is pretty good. This is actually pretty easy. You got some presets, music, home, nav, right? And then this is for volume, so you got to remember you can't turn the volume here or here. It's over here. And then forward, backwards, and you have a star. Now, what I love about Mazda systems is they will put a menu item for navigation, even though there's no navigation. So they want you to buy it. But I always found that to be funny. And all Mazda's infotainment systems, that's how it is. But one very important thing in here, let me show you guys what I'm talking about, is applications. As you can see, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto are standard on this Yaris hatchback. So it doesn't matter you don't have navigation, just utilize your car, and that's what most people are doing these days anyways. So this screen is actually fairly big, it's fairly responsive, and it's touch. So the whole interface is actually pretty good. So that's one of the reasons why I think this Yaris is actually pretty modern and sleek. And this control over here, pretty easy to understand. There's a knob and you could press down, you know, pretty simple to use. Now, let's go over here. This is climate control. Now, this is easy to use, but this reminds me of cars from 10, 15, 20 years ago. There is no auto. There's no button for you to press just auto, so you have to manually adjust, going all the way over here for extreme hot, and then max AC, so you have to figure out somewhere in the middle where it's comfortable for you. And then this is fan control, recirculating, you know, this is defroster, and you have to select, you know, where it's blowing out of, front and bottom, you know, you guys have seen this before, but this is from many years ago, and it's a single climate zone. All right, down here you have a couple USB ports, you have a 12V outlet. This is for SD card for your navigation. Now over here you have a standard shifter with manual shifting. There is no paddle shifters, unfortunately. This is not CVT, this is actually a 6-speed auto, so I'm going to see how this is. And then there's no armrest. You know, interesting enough, there is no armrest anywhere. So you can't lay your arm anywhere, and I can't remember the last car I reviewed that didn't have an armrest. But anyways, you have a couple of cup holders, a manual parking brake that you have to pull up, and you got some space over here, you know, for your phone or whatever. And that's pretty much it. There's really not much else. So if you look at the dash, you know, the dash looks pretty modern. Hazard light, you know, the climate vents are circle, very Mazda-like, right? The door panel, this is hard plastic, this is cloth, so it's a combination of hard plastic and cloth. If you take a look at the seats, just like the rear, they have a good design. Now, I'm reviewing the LE version. If you get the XLE, you do get leather seats. Everything is cloth, but you could see in the middle, blue insert in the middle, black on the outside, so adds a bit of sportiness to the look. The bolsters is nice and big and thick, so I'll see how they hold me in once I go for a drive. And no sunroof, nothing like that. This is just for lights. And that's pretty much it. No home link buttons either. So this is pretty much as basic as you can get in terms of a car that you could buy these days. All right, let's go for a drive and see how this Yaris hatchback is on the roads. Now, a lot of you guys watching this will say, yeah, this is probably a Mazda 2 rebadge, right? But is that such a bad thing? Mazdas traditionally have really sporty cars. They drive well. They're driver's brand, right? And I reviewed a Mazda 3 hatchback. I thought that was a great car. I've reviewed a CX-5 before. I thought that was a great SUV. So I can't wait to test out the capabilities of this Yaris hatchback and see, you know, is that Mazda DNA still in this car? And I'm thinking yes, and that's not a bad thing at all. Man, getting the temperature right in here is very difficult because you can't really set the temperature you want. You had to kind of guess with this knob. So I keep fumbling around with it to find the proper temperature. Okay, I just floored it, but it doesn't sound like it because the car really didn't move. This engine is pushing barely 100 horsepower, 106 horsepower to be exact, and is not a very lively engine. There is a sport mode that I didn't enable. I will and see if it makes a difference, but that was pretty slow getting up to 50, not even 60. Right off the bat, the Mazda DNA is coming through. The steering feel is fantastic. It has a very precise feel, a direct feel to the road. I love that feeling. The steering wheel also feels pretty good too. And the suspension, you could tell right away this is a Mazda tuned suspension. It is a little bit stiffer because it's meant to be more sporty, but it's controlled and comfortable still. So it has a good balance. So right away, that Mazda DNA, that's a good thing. The driving feel right now is pure Mazda, and that's fantastic. I really feel connected to the car. It's a small little car, lightweight car, and you could definitely throw this around the corners, and I'm really enjoying the drive right now. What about visibility? Well, visibility is okay. It's not bad, actually. I do feel like my head is close to the roof, although it's not. It's illusion, and that's because the windshield only goes up so far. I actually have plenty of headroom, but because of how high I'm sitting and because the low windshield height, it makes me feel like I'm out of headroom, but I'm not. The side windows are pretty good. The blind spot, surprisingly, is actually pretty good. I could see out there. And that's important because you don't get some kind of blind spot monitoring system in this Yaris hatchback, so you definitely do need to look. And the back is actually surprising. With the headrest up, it does block, but with the headrest down all the way in the lowest position, you get great visibility. Nothing is blocked, and the windshield, the glass back there, tailgate glass, is nice and big. All right, I just enabled sport, and I'm gonna do some manual shifting here. Let's see if acceleration is a little better. God, that took a long time. That took a long time to get to 60. So manual shifting as sport mode doesn't really help. Let's do a U-turn, see how the turning radius is. Oh, turning radius is fantastic. Man, that was just too much space for that U-turn. So turning radius is fantastic. For those of you guys that are curious about that. These seats, they actually hold me pretty well. The side bolsters I mentioned, nice and thick. It's a little bit on the narrow side, so it is really up against my back, which for some of you guys is great because it really holds you in. But for me, I feel like it's a tad too narrow. And as for the seat adjustment itself, there are no power functions. Even for driver's side, everything is manual. You can't move the seat up or down, forward and backwards, all that good stuff, but it is all manual. Now that I'm going 60, in terms of quietness, it's actually very quiet in here, very quiet. I'm surprised by that. Very, very, very low wind noise, just slightly, but this is actually really good. Not much wind noise, slight road noise, but overall, it's a very quiet car. Yeah, so if you want to, if you want to race something like that, you don't want to do it in this car. If this had a 6-speed manual right now, the fun factor will go up through the roof. I think this is really lacking a 6-speed manual. So this auto, although it's good, it's better than the CVT. It's not hunting for gears. It's actually really good. But if this was a 6-speed manual right now, the fun factor would be off the charts. Let's take this corner pretty hard. Oh yeah. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. I took that corner about 35 miles per hour. And again, that Mazda DNA came through. That's the best part of this Yaris hatchback, is the suspension and steering feel is amazing. Lastly, let's look at the good and bad to this Yaris hatchback. Starting with the good, it is a great size for urban cities, especially for parking. There's a decent amount of room in the second row and trunk, especially for this class. There's good interior and exterior looks. The Yaris hatchback has a fantastic suspension and steering feel. There's also good visibility and a good seating position. And finally, the Yaris hatchback is quiet and provides great fuel economy. As for the bad, there are a few things. It sorely lacks safety features. Toyota Safety Sense is not available. It also sorely lacks a 6-speed manual option, which would help with the slow acceleration. Little things such as auto climate control and power driver seats are not available with the LE trim, and also there are no cup holders for the second row. Overall, I'm giving this Yaris hatchback a score of 82, and if you want to see how it ranks among its peers, then check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel and check out some of these other videos.